Okay, well, here we are again. Just taking a moment to find your body in space, orient yourself relative to gravity and whatever it is that you are in relation with when it comes to gravity and comfort and ambient temperature. It's starting to get colder, so do you need a sweater? Do you need a pillow under your back to help prop you up? Right now I'm feeling like being a little bit reclined. It's way too late to be starting a recording of a meditation right now, but I can't help myself. This wants to happen. So I am just kind of checking in to see what is coming forth tonight. It is All Hallows Eve today, the eve of Samhain tonight. And by the time this gets posted, it will be Samhain. And I need different music. This is too... I canceled my Spotify. Partly because I didn't like having so many streaming services, and partly because of their fucking ICE ads. But I know that YouTube's running them too, and I can't do without YouTube. But my Apple Music algorithm is just really not trained nearly as well. I fucking love Spotify's daylist feature, because like probably at least half the time it's like, yes, I do feel like listening to sad gothic library music or whatever. But like right now I'm just looking at my Apple Music library and I'm trying to find some nice meditation music that's not just freaking that's not just like spa music, you know. Okay, this is promising. Okay, yeah, some Cephas Azaria. Yeah, that'll be good. Okay. And so I'm actually feeling kind of activated in my arms right now. I'm just like over the weekend on Saturday, my progressed moon moved into Gemini. And that's funny because Gemini rules the arms, right? And so my arms are just like lit up, but I immediately have noticed this desire to go out into the world, to go walk, go get around, you know, go sit at a coffee shop, go just get out of the house. For the past 2.5 years, I've been pretty hermit-like, just, you know, very like stay at home, try, you know, don't go out of my comfort zone too much with that progressed moon in Taurus. And yeah, now I've got a progressed Gemini moon, and I like feel this compulsion to go and do things, and I really don't want to sleep. I really don't want to sleep until I've already been asleep, and ask me at 7 or ask me at 6:30 in the morning when um, got a toddler prying my, she doesn't know to like pry my eyes open yet or to like try to pull me out of bed, but just like climbing all over me and saying, "Mommy, I want to go eat breakfast." Um, and then I'll want to sleep. But I don't want to sleep right now. In the evenings, I'm getting really bad revenge bedtime procrastination. Oh, case in point, the fact that it is, 10:17 as I'm sitting down to record this. So, um, yeah. But this is meditation. This is energy work. This is healing work, and it definitely dovetails nicely into bed. So if you find yourself listening to these like late at night, that's a good good energetic match, I think. Or anytime you have some time to come join me on the astral plane and like let's hang out, right? Like let's just fucking hang out. That's all I want. I just want to hang out. And yeah, I think this is probably also a progressed Gemini moon initiative. Oh man. So just, wherever you are, wherever you find yourself in space, in time, just know that your time loop is folding back onto the evening of October 30th, 2025 right now. And yeah, we're in Samhain season. The leaves are falling. We're getting some good storms coming through. It's supposed to rain tomorrow for Halloween. Typical fall, it's very Samhain. It's the turning point. It's that inflection point the in the descent of the fall, right? Where the acceleration of the loss of daylight starts to slow down, and we're going to start to kind of gently land into Yule from here. And where I live, I'm in Seattle, so it's pretty far north, and we have very pronounced differences in daylight from summer to winter. About 16 hours of daylight in summer and 8 hours of daylight in winter. So it's it's twice as much sun at the of the summer solstice as it is at the winter solstice. And so here we are really entering into the big dark, like we like to call it here, about this time of year. And to me, these last few days before the time change are a really potent portal to there's the ability to kind of hop your timeline when the time changes, because you've been whatever time you've been getting up, like, and if you live here in Seattle and you have a kid or you have a job or whatever, like you probably are getting up before the sun by this time of year, because we have some of the latest sunrises of the year. Actually, the latest sunrise of the year will be Saturday morning, tomorrow night. And the sun doesn't come up until almost 8 or after 8, right? I think it's like, actually, no, I think it's like 7:55, I think, but it's like basically 8 o'clock is when the sun comes up right now. And then of course that'll get reset back to 7 after the time change. But these late dark mornings, like you have this potential to like witness the sunrise when that's not something that's normally part of your repertoire. And then after the time change, sometimes you can like turn yourself into a morning person, right? And you can convince yourself that, oh, it's time to get up. It's 5:30, right? So just a little bit of and this is one of those things that like, I kind of, okay, so let's talk about, this got a grunt of affirmation from Juniper over there. Let's talk about artificial time loops versus natural time loops, because we have both, and we have one thing that has come up for me is that the fact that our calendar isn't a perfectly natural calendar, and the fact that we have like months with 31 days and months with 30 days, and then 1 month with 28 or 29 days, and then leap years and all of this stuff. Matrix time is what we're going to call that, right? This is, and this is something that I got from Elena Rose Dumaine, Harvest Rose Witchery. She talks a lot about the time matrix, right? Which is, according to her, is like it's like this overlay that has been put on Earth right now, that we have this time matrix and we're living in, this like somewhat linear feeling experience of time, which it isn't like that a lot of places, right? A lot of frequencies, a lot of locations in the galaxy or wherever. And if the ways that this time matrix is laid onto our experience of natural cyclical time, so thinking about the difference between the calendar month and the lunar month, for example, like whichever type of lunar month you're thinking about, because there's all sorts of different ways to measure that. But even just like the phases of the moon, right? So going from new moon, first quarter, which is where we are right now, full moon, third quarter, new moon, right? That rhythm, going from that to the calendar month there's no synchronization, right? There's no big picture like scheme where they line up. And the same goes for like the solar calendar and the calendar are closer, but they're still like, we don't start on the same day of the week every year, right? Every year moves backwards 1 day or 2 days if it's a leap year. But all of these little ways in which our matrix time does not fit onto Kairos time. So this is another thing I got from Elena, is this concept of, but I mean, this is Greek, right? Kairos and Kronos. There's two types of time. Kairos being the eternal, the flow, the cycles, the rhythms, and then Kronos being the clock and the calendar and the matrix. But the time matrix is another form of mind control. It's another form of it's another way of just removing you from nature and removing you from your your sovereignty, and just kind of putting you on the back foot, right? So that you will comply and you will be a good worker bee and produce excess wealth for the ruling class, right? And I mean, time is time, right? Time is never going to be something that's easy to understand or talk about or really grasp. But if we can learn to get our bodies back in synchronization with the natural time, it'll make more sense to us, right? It'll be more embodied because we already embody these rhythms, right? We already have the rhythm of the moon pulsing through our veins, and the rhythm of the sun, right, beating in our heart. We are made out of these rhythms. We have just been like the image that I'm seeing right now is like that we're being like refracted out into a million different prisms, or like squished into okay, this is the image that's coming through. Okay, so imagine that you have some Play-Doh or some clay, right? And you roll it into a ball, and then you roll it into a snake, right? This is what you do, like with clay or Play-Doh, right? First you make it into a ball, and then you put it out, and you like roll it out into a snake, like a long thin like noodle. But actually, let's imagine that this snake is you in time, right? So if you think about what it would look like to see an object in 4 dimensions, right? Like you would turn into a like a snake or a noodle or a fiber, right? These are the fibers of the topological unified field theory that I've been talking about in these sessions. And sidebar, if you want to take a little tangent, there's an alien race in the Kurt Vonnegut book Slaughterhouse-Five called the Trofalmadorians. I think that's the name. That's what Claude told me. I have not actually validated it, and I have not read Slaughterhouse-Five since I was a teenager. But there's this race of aliens in this sci-fi book that views humans as this, right? They see a human as being this like long snake, where at the beginning you're a baby, and then at the end you're dead, and you just exist in this form. Okay. So let's take that concept, right? And we're going to think about ourselves as this, or about anything, but yourself is probably the most easiest frame of reference. You're going to think of yourself as this like snake of clay or of Play-Doh. Okay. And then if like, so the, like it's continuous, right? It's smooth, it's stretched out, but we're going to ignore the fact that it like weaves in and out of other fibers or other noodles or whatever right now. But what I'm seeing for the time matrix is, imagine if there were a series of like little cookie cutter boxes. Like a cookie cutter that's like a tiny square, but then there's like an endless number of these little square cookie cutters just like side to side next to each other, stretching out next to your noodle. Okay. And then imagine that you roll your noodle into these little tiny cookie cutters, and it just breaks it apart, right? And it's not like it's actually breaking the continuity, but it's disrupting the rhythmic flow of your existence to have these concepts of months and years and even to a certain extent days. Like days are pretty, pretty okay, but like hours, right? Hours and minutes and seconds, and then months and years and weeks, and all of these ideas, all of these measures of time that are just concepts. They're just mental. They're not reflected in nature, right? And that's what these are doing to you. Is it's just like it's spreading you out into, or like kind of squishing your energy into these boxes that are not the right shape. Like last night I was talking about, like, I think I was talking about like rectangles, right? And we were talking, like living in a house, or living in an apartment, or in a, even in a, like, if you have a room, if it's a tiny house or a mansion, right, it's still a box, right? It's a box that you stick yourself into. And time is the same way. We're putting ourselves into these boxes of time, whether we're talking about seconds and minutes and hours, or if we're talking about months and years and decades. The whole concept of the calendar is a matrix. So yeah, as right now, as we're on the brink of the time change, which is this disruption in the time flow, it's a good time to kind of think about your relationship with time, and the ways that you about the ways that you can embody the more, because the goal is to get back to Kairos time, right? The goal is to break away from the matrix, right? Get the fuck out of Kronos. Stop measuring things with stopwatches and seconds and timers and all of those things, right? We want to flow. We want to we want to flow. I can't think of a better word than that. But of course, the time matrix has us all in a chokehold, and all of our technology is built upon it, and all of our ways of agreeing upon, and that's the thing that a matrix is a frame of reference so that we can agree upon anything. And we need a matrix here on Earth because we have physical matter and physical bodies and things and stuff here. And there's this concept of taking up space. So if I have something in this space, you can't have something in that same space, right? There's a finite amount of space, there's a finite amount of materials, there's a finite amount of everything, right? Essentially, in the matrix here on Earth, and that's the only reason. Like we need a matrix on Earth, but it doesn't have to be this one that we're stuck in right now. And finding ways to get back into sync with the natural flow, is like, that's part of the work, right? Decolonizing your mind includes the colonizers' calendars, right? Um, and there's one interesting, because like, if you say that you're going to do away with the calendar and the clock, like, good luck, right? um, there is an alternative calendar that is the like the Neo Mayan calendar, like the revival of the Mayan calendar, which is an interesting idea. I've studied it a little bit, not enough to really be able to speak to it too coherently, but it's out there, but it's wildly different, and that is good and bad, right? And I think it might be too different for the vast majority of humans here on Earth. So, yeah, and I don't have like any alternative calendar systems here. I just, I mean, obviously, astrology is very near and dear to my heart. That's, like following the cycles of the planets. And I think that is a good place to start. And because we're here embodied on Earth, I use tropical astrology, where we have that moment of the solstice, or the moment of the equinox, like anchoring our the relationships of the planets to the stars. I can go off on a tangent about sidereal astrologers, but I'm not going to. I'm going to save that. Not all sidereal astrologers, but somehow it's always a sidereal astrologer. Yeah, so using astrology as a way to come back into our deeply embodied ways of knowing, of keeping time, like that's why I do what I do. But the challenge here is that astrology gives us ways of marking longer phases of time that are shorter than a day. But we really, like, it's harder to, or sorry, longer phases of time that are longer than a day, right? But we don't really have a good way of measuring parts of a day. In a way that we can actually like measure it and mark it by watching something, right? We have like the concept of the hours of the day, where the day and the night are divided into 12, and you have like Venus hour and Mars hour and things like that. The only way I know how to know what hour it is by looking it up on a website, but yeah, that requires some pretty significant technology. If you don't have technology, it's hard to figure out where you are in, like, relative to the inter parts of the day. But I think coming back into your own rhythms and developing your rhythms of, like, what does a day look like? And this is something that having a child has really helped me with, because I am and I'm not a creature of habit. Like I go through phases where I have a very rigid set of habits and then they will just completely switch within a very short period of time. And absent any external timekeeping structure like work meetings, things like that, um, I don't really I don't really have a rigid schedule or a rigid routine that I stick to, but having a kiddo, like, I mean, having a dog will help you with this, but having a child will really help you with this because, um, yeah, the day just takes a rhythm. Like, there's a rhythm to the day, right? You get up, you make breakfast, then you hang out for a while, and then you leave the house and go do something, and then you come home and eat lunch, and then go down for a nap, and then I go do grown-up things like watch Star Trek while she's taking a nap, and then she gets up, and then we go and do some more things, and blah blah blah, right? The whole day kind of takes on this, just like, but um, it's turning into more of flow time, unless like we keep an eye on the clock, but it's not. Um, the clock doesn't necessarily dictate most of the things we do. It does dictate many of them, but not all of them. Um, and that's like an unexpected joy, I think, of parenting a toddler and being able to spend time with her and not have external work meetings and things like that right now very often. Not that I don't, but um, most of my work is done asynchronously now, which is really highly recommend. Um, yeah, so I'm spending more time in Kairos time and flow time, which is great. Um, it's just that it's hard to get completely into Kairos time living on Earth right now. And having a spouse that has a matrix job and doing activities with the child that you sign up for, and and having childcare with certain you know time parameters around it. Yeah, I don't know what it would look like to be completely in Kronos time, to be completely in the flow. I do have a feeling that I will get a chance to discover what that is like at some point during this lifetime. Um, yeah, my guides are being purposely vague on this, but they're telling me about some type of initiation that is well, actually, I have some very specific details about it, but I'm not clear to share those with you all right now. And that's that's it's just how it is, right? Um, yeah. So the other thing that's coming up for me tonight that I want to talk about is whew, yeah, there's some energy around this. Separation, that realization. Um, so I think that my baby is about as old as I was when I like, I remember now being so confused as to why I was alone about the time that I was her age. So she's almost 2.5 now. And it's like solitude is not our natural state. Solitude can be very nourishing to the mature mind, to the adult, or even an older child. But when we're that young, solitude is really, really difficult. And I remember it being really difficult. And we've gotten to this point now, by the time we're adults, where we just don't even remember. Whew, lots of energy coming up around this. A lot where we don't even remember what it's like to not be alone on the inside. And I'm talking about being alone on the inside, right? Interiorly, not necessarily not being around other people, but like not having other people's thoughts in your head and being able to communicate with other people via thoughts and images and like shared interiority, right? True psychic connection, right? Which is rare right now on the planet. Of course, I do believe that everybody has the capacity, not everybody, vast majority of people. There are a few poor, unfortunate souls, and I think that actually most of the billionaires are probably in that camp. Just completely incapable of psychic awareness. Whew, yeah. I hadn't actually put that together. Yeah, I think that the people who are causing all the problems right now are probably, because like anybody who has studied psychic phenomena in an academic way, so Dr. Dean Radin is a good example. In order to like study psychic abilities, he had to find people who had none. And that was the most difficult part, was actually finding people who had no capacity for psychic communication. Or even if they did, it was so far hidden that it wasn't detectable in their screens or however they were using to find people. Yeah. So the vast majority of us are more than capable. It's just that it's lied dormant since the dawn of colonization, since our ancestors were colonized. And it is so critically important for us, as especially white people, to remember that we were colonized too, right? We were colonized too. Unless you trace 100% of your lineage back to like the Empire of Rome, right? And even then, like, we were fucking colonized. And when we remember that, and when we actually connect with the ancestors of ours who like experienced that trauma of going from living 100% in Kairos time, living in a world with magic, living in a world where with shared interiority with family and friends and kin, you have ancestors who have memory of that trauma of losing that and being forced into this model, this matrix, and they're waiting for you to remember. They're waiting for you to connect with them. I actually had a really profound experience in therapy this was probably a couple of years ago at this point, but um, I do IFS therapy, and my therapist is also an astrologer. She's amazing. And IFS is also, it's so good. Or it works really, really well for me. But yeah, I remember that I went, and I don't remember the context, but I remember that I found something in one of my parts was dealing with something that was, maybe it was like a fear of being seen or something like that. But we traced it all the way back to ancestors who were living at the time of the Roman conquest of the British Isles, which is where I trace my heritage back to for the most part. Um, and yeah, that was like the moment where I realized like I was, I was colonized too, right? And that's an important part of remembering, I think, for white people, and of doing the atonement, the at-one-ment, the shadow work that's necessary in times like this to bring your whole self into alignment so that you can bring the world into alignment, right? So maybe I think that's probably what I'm going to leave you with tonight is, this gift of remembering that you were colonized too, your ancestors were colonized too, and getting curious about who were they before that. And also using that as a framework to connect with the more recent ancestors and remember that a lot of them did what they had to do in order to survive under this very brutal kind of regime, the way of life. Your ancestors that had to throw away and like disown their most sacred practices in order to survive, right? Your ancestors that had to, pretend to be a good girl and just put your head down and grin and bear it, and all of these, like, keep a stiff upper lip, like all of this burden of erasing emotions and conforming, right? That takes its toll, right? That leaves an epigenetic imprint, right? That's a trauma that is going to take generations to heal from in a conventional paradigm. So there may be ways that we can speed it up if we allow energy work. But yeah, that's just like men are harmed by patriarchy, white people are absolutely harmed by colonialism and by white supremacy. And I think I would also like, no, never mind. That. There was an exit sign, and I thought I was going to swerve and get off, but I'm not going to. Yeah, so in these times, in these moments, especially this time of year when the ancestors are very present. Yeah, spend some time with yours and looking at the ways in which some of the things that they did and a lot of the things that they did that we look back as wow, that's really harmful, wow, that's really fucked up. You can flip the script on that, and you can say that you can see that they were trying to survive in a very toxic framework. Not that it forgives the harm that was caused, but it explains the it explains the behavior, right? Without excusing it, you can explain it. Yeah, and I said I was going to leave it, but there's more things are coming up. So if you think of empire, right, just as like a power structure, right, just the generic concept of empire as a service to self polarity phenomenon, right, in which we have emperor at the top or whatever, male ruler figure, and then we have advisors, and then generals, and then army, military, and then we have and in the within the household we have like man goes out in the world, woman stays at home, cooks, cleans, creates more babies for empire, right? This is a service to self model. And the thing about service to self polarity is that it is truly eat or be eaten. You abso-fucking-lutely have to become a service to self oriented entity, being, soul, whatever, to survive and not just to survive, but to like not get trampled, essentially. And so again, as especially as white people, right, as we go, not that I'm assuming that all of my listeners are white people, this is like, white people are the ones that have to do this fucking work right now because everybody else has already done it, and they're just like looking at us going like, when are you guys going to get with the fucking program? Not that everybody has fucking healed, but we all have this work to do, but especially white people, and especially in America, have this obligation to look at the ways in which our ancestors perpetuated these systems of violence and white male supremacy. And this is the work, right? But understanding that they were living in a world and in a framework that was service to self-polarity, you do start to understand about a bit better. Like I said, it doesn't excuse it, but it does explain it. Because in that model, you were beaten and abused as a child, and so of course you have to beat and abuse your children because otherwise they're going to grow up to be too soft, right? But that's the old world. That's what is dying right now. That's what we must leave behind. And now it's time to build the service to other polarity networks, connection of caring and creation. Um, and what am I'm just gonna, yeah, I think maybe I'll leave you with it. I keep saying, oh, I'm just gonna wrap this up, but stuff keeps coming up. Um, if you're new to this concept of service to self and service to other, these are terms and frameworks that come to us through the law of one, or the raw material. It's this body of channeled work. It's pretty awesome. Like, I don't endorse everything that the source says, but I think it's definitely a worthwhile if you're interested in learning more about channeled material and things like that. But that framework, one of the best ways that I've ever seen it illustrated is in Star Trek. And of course, it's me, so I'm going to tie a lot of things back to Star Trek because I fucking love it. Um, but there's a there's like a parallel universe. So Star Trek is very like, it's like fully automated luxury space communism, right? Like, everything is like, there's hierarchies. There's a captain, there's first officers, like there's a military framework around it, but there's these networks of caring and trust and camaraderie, and just like the whole like Federation of Planets is always out to like help other planets, and they're doing the right thing, and they're right. But there's this concept of the mirror universe, and I think it actually started in the original series, but it's very thoroughly explored in Star Trek Discovery. Um, so if you are looking for a Star Trek show to watch and you have run out of Strange New Worlds, go catch up on Discovery. Um, but they find themselves in the mirror universe where it's the Terran Empire, and it's like, it's cutthroat, and everybody is like fighting to stay, like, because if you don't, if you're losing fights, you're going down, like you're getting like trampled. So it's another way of looking at the world, and I don't want to live in a service to self polarity universe anymore. And so, like, let's all just commit to being of service to others instead of just ourselves. And that's how we birth the new world. That's how we build what we want to see. Yeah, I think that is where I want to leave it tonight. So I hope that I hope that you were able to get some things out of this session. And if you feel called to, leave a comment or reach out to me and let me know like what's vibrating at, like, in resonance with you. Yeah, this is not meant to be me just sitting here talking. This is an astral space. This is a conversation. This is a space we're building together. So if you are called to this work, then let's go deeper. Yeah. Thank you for being here, and I will see you in the next one. Good night and good luck.